Shalom from Israel, I'm Ariel Ben Abraham. This week we are going to reflect on chapter 15 of the book of Psalms by King David. Verse 1, Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live in your holy mountain? So David starts with a major fundamental question. Fundamental, we're talking about a really transcendental question. Why? Because it transcends time and space. We're talking about dwelling with God. And we know that God is eternal. Therefore, it's a transcendental question. This question is connected to the last verse, verse 7 of the previous chapter, chapter 14, which, as we mentioned last week, is referred to the Messianic era. It has to do with the Messianic consciousness. So a moment, as we mentioned in the previous commentary on chapter 14, had to do when goodness is leading every level and aspect of consciousness and facet of life, as we said before. So immediately after that closing of chapter 14, we open chapter 15, continuing with the same trend, with the same idea of the final redemption of human consciousness. Then the question is there, who may dwell in your sacred tent? In the previous chapter, our redemption comes from Zion. Zion is the tent. It's the temple of Jerusalem. That's the tent, the sacred tent of God. So the question is, who may dwell in this place? So how do we dwell in the temple of Jerusalem? What is the meaning of dwelling in our permanent connection with God, represented by the temple? The awareness of our permanent connection with God. So who are those who can do that, who are able to? Who are those chosen ones? Should we call them chosen ones? If we believe that goodness is what makes us chosen to be good, then we are all chosen. As long as we believe in goodness as the reason for us to be chosen. So if we want to be chosen, we have to choose being good, doing good, having goodness. But let's continue. Who may live in your holy mountain? So first, David is asking God directly. It's like, who can have this privilege? Who can you choose to dwell with you in your tent? It's living with you in your household, in your house. It is not a simple question here. As we mentioned earlier, this is a transcendental question. It's like going back to our Creator and dwell with Him. So then David asks him, who may live there in this holy mountain? And we have said that mountain represents solid, strong, immutable principles. So the mountain of God, as we mentioned many times, is His goodness. Then we may say, it's very easy. The answer is very easy. You have to be good. Yes, That's the answer. Then we'll see. Verse 2. The one whose walking is blameless, who does what is right, who speaks the truth from the heart. So we're talking about ethical principles that define goodness here. Goodness is not something abstract here. It's very concrete. So David is bringing meanings, definitions. So it's blameless. So we usually blame when we do something wrong. So the semantic approach is like it's blameless. Like this, nobody has to be pointed out. Like you did it. So meaning, those who are blameless, like those who are good. We have no reason to be judged or be pointed out, or singled out, to blame, to be blamed. Why? Because we're good. Then, one who does what is right. What is doing right? So what is good? What is proper? What is productive? What is uplifting? What is positive? What is nurturing? What is redeeming? What is caring? What is saving? And that is what is right. And it's interesting because the next phrase is like, who speaks the truth. So in this case, doing what is right and speaking the truth are the same. Belong to the same category, to the same level. And what is truth? But you may say, what is right? Yes. So we have mentioned many times that the entire purpose of justice, a court of justice, is to make truth prevail. And what is truth in this case? What is right? What is good? So we send wicked people to jail in order to make goodness prevail. Like you did something wrong, you have to be separated from society because that's what you did is against goodness. Therefore, you are the person who has been sentenced because of his or her wickedness. This person has been denying the truth. Now, it's interesting that David says here, the truth from their heart. So one way we can understand heart, in the Jewish tradition, in many ways, could be understanding, could be consciousness, and also could be love. So that when we speak truth out of love, now how we do truthness, how do we speak truth out of love, out of the heart? Then we connect righteousness, doing what is right, with truth, with goodness. And goodness as the result of love. So all goodness, every righteous deed has to be motivated by the heart, by love. It's like, it's not enough to be ethical and moral. This motivation has to be a motivation out of loving, out of caring for others. This is very, very, very essential to understand that all these concepts are connected. Truth, righteousness, goodness, and love. They're contained within each other. That's what we call in the blog love's ways and attributes. So we're not talking about love as something abstract. We're talking about these qualities that define what love is. Goodness, truth, and righteousness. Doing what is right. Verse 3. Whose tongue utters, speaks no slander, who does no wrong to his fellow man, and casts no slur on others. Yeah. David is defining ethical qualities of goodness, of doing what is right. So in this umbrella that we're talking about, in this love's ways and attributes, we're talking about no slander. Doing nothing wrong, nothing negative to others. And don't speak slander. Don't talk bad about others. Negative talking. 4. Who despises a vile person, but honors those who revere the Lord. Who keeps an oath even when it hurts, and does not change their mind. So let's reflect a little bit on this. Who despises a vile person. In other words, he doesn't associate with evil people. Who despise evil. We're supposed to hate evil. And this hate is a rejection. It's separating ourselves from that. This is not the hate to hate or the feeling of not loving something. It's really separating ourselves. Either candidly, but with the determination that is not part of our consciousness. Why? Because of love's ways and attributes, the goodness of love's ways and attributes does not dwell, coexist, cohabit with anything different than what these are. So this is pretty much, as we mentioned many times, what the Torah says over and over again. This is pretty much black and white. It is. So we cannot play in the two fields here. And it's clear, we see that even in games. That two teams are against each other, that are against each other. And one is supposed to defeat each other. They not cooperate with each other. So we see that in our social life. It's pretty much the same in our consciousness. So we have to despise, we have to be against, we have to fight evil. Not just let it be. But it's none of my business that there's evil people around here, or in the world, doing evil. We don't do anything about that. It's not correct. And we know that. We do that with our families. We don't allow anything evil to come to one of our own. We don't. So this immediate principle, or even to us, unless we're masochists that we like to enjoy evil and pain and suffering and that kind of thing. No, we're talking about normal circumstances here. Common sense. If normal doesn't fit the category, it's common sense. We have to despise evil. We have to. And this despise is, again, is separating ourselves from it and fight it and defeat it. Eliminate it from our consciousness. With its own ways and traits. who despise a vile person but honors those who revere the Lord. In other words, we have to be in the side of the good people. We are against evil people. We have to join the good ones. In other words, there is no neutral positions here. Okay, the good people are over there, the bad people are over there, I'm here. No, we have to take sides. We cannot remain neutral. And we know that every day that we see in the papers all this war of evil against goodness. These Islamic fundamentalist groups who want to destroy human dignity. We have to fight them. We have to eliminate them. But we have to do also the same in our consciousness. We have to eliminate the negative traits and trends in consciousness that stops us to be good and to do good. This is essential. Who keeps an oath even when it hurts. In other words, we have to stand by principles, even if at some point they will be against us, because we are not perfect. We commit mistakes, errors. We have the tendency also to do negative things. Then we have to embrace goodness and say we have to amend our wrong attitudes, our wrongdoings, even if it hurts. We have to remove everything, not just partially. We have to do it in our own consciousness. This is what it says here. Not because David is saying it, that's the way it is, and we know that. And does not change their mind. In other words, again, this is not about negotiating here, that I'm going to do this right, but later I'm going to do something wrong. Then I change my mind about what good is supposed to be. It's not going to be good anymore. I'm not going to do. No. We have to stand strong by our principles, the goodness that we have been talking about here. So 5 and final verse of this chapter 15, who lends money to the poor without interest. This is a law. This is a commandment of the Torah among the Jewish people. It's like, if we love, if we want to make goodness prevail, we have to help each other without interest. And this interest is not just the monetary value of currency. We're talking about when we give something, we shouldn't put an added value to that. In other words, we give 100% of goodness as a favor. And when we want something more, 100% 20 of goodness back, no, it doesn't work that way. We have to give it all possible to relieve the need of this fellow man. Therefore, we cannot jeopardize and put a price tag on this. So we need it back, we need it back. If we don't, we don't. Who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. In other words, we're not going to be bought with money, with favors, or with anything in exchange in order to damage somebody else's life. Again, these are ethical principles of goodness that David is pointing out in this particular chapter. Whoever does these things will never be shaken. In other words, when we are good, when we stand by goodness, we're not going to be shaken. Why? Because goodness is our shield, is our armor, is our protection, is our life. So we hold on to our lives and we stand strong in our lives with goodness, because we know, as we said before, that goodness is our essence and true identity, our common bond with God. That is our life. So therefore we will never be shaken as long as we are permanently aware of goodness, as we said, of our common bond with God. So with this we finish our reflection of chapter 15 of the book of Psalms. We wish you, as usual, an abundantly blessed week. Shabbat Shalom, and until next time.